India has pulled out of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework Group trade pillar. How is this going to impact India-US relations? Harsh says Bharat has pulled out of the IPEF trade pillar. Is it because of the F-16 deal that the Pakistanis and China and the Americans have going, or is it because India and China Bharat relations are improving as we have both pulled the army back? And Samarth says, what is the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework (IPEF) launched recently by the US, and is it just a waste of time? Why is Taiwan not part of it? Okay, let me share my screen and let's take a look at what this IPEF is. I'm going to put what shall I put on the screen? IPEF. I'm going to put a Wikipedia article on it. So once again, statutory warning: Wikipedia is not always reliable. In this case, I'm using it just for the sake of convenience because I'm just showing you the big picture. So the IPEF has, I think, 14 nations. It's something that has been launched in May this year, May 23 this year. It's the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity. What a wonderful name it has. And it has all these Indo-Pacific nations: Australia, Brunei, Fiji, India, Indonesia, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, New Zealand, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, US, and Vietnam. So this essentially, once again, is the US. The Americans want to decouple from China, and that's something that is in progress right now. So this is part of that. So they want to pull various nations in the Indo-Pacific region on the to the American side and against China. So that's what's happening, and all of these nations are nations that typically feel threatened by the Chinese uh, expansionist activities. So it makes sense for these nations to band together, and the Americans are the biggest economy, so they are leading this process. Yeah. So now, this IPEF, let's put that back on the screen. Let's put that back on the screen. So it has four pillars, yeah, four themes or four pillars. One is fair and resilient trade. Second is supply chain resilience. Third is infrastructure, clean energy, decarbonization, whatever that is. And the fourth is tax and anti-corruption. The main thing is actually trade, fair and resilient trade. That is the major outcome that this entire thing seeks, because that is where the power comes from, right? That's the real deal. So India has refused to become part of that particular pillar, the trade pillar. Why is this? So the ministry of whichever concerned ministry has put out some explanation as to why we have done this. They essentially, what we are saying in diplomatic terms is that we want to wait until the framework matures and see how it progresses, and then we will take a call on this. The actual reason could be retaliation to the US for their F-16 deal with Pakistan. It is very much a possibility. So we will not say that that's why we are doing it, but it is to be understood that this is a tug of war that's happening between India and the Americans. India is pursuing an independent foreign policy vis-a-vis Russia, vis-a-vis Ukraine, vis-a-vis various other nations. India is pursuing a multipolar world. That's the kind of world India wants, and that's the kind of game India is playing, the geopolitical game. It is multi-alignment, not going into one person's camp, the big boys camp. Yeah. In response to that, and India is also participating in the war games, the Vostok war games in the far east of Russia. In response to that, the Americans they have done this deal with the Pakistanis, and they are selling Pakistan this big $500 million worth of upgrades to the F-16 fighter jet flotilla. In response, India seems to have done this, that we will not be part of your trade pillar of the Indo-Pacific economic framework. So this is a tit for tat happening right now. Yeah. And what we are seeing is that the Americans, US is the only superpower in the world. It is the biggest dog in the entire park, right? India is still a much smaller economy, but India is still standing firm, and India is telling the US that you cannot tell us what to do. So that's what we are witnessing. I don't know how far this will go and what are the consequences going to be like. The Americans are not happy, clearly. I mean, giving a big F-16 upgrade to Pakistan is like crossing a certain line, right? It's like going back to the days of the Cold War. Think about it. The Americans always accuse India of having a 20th century mentality. They accuse India always of having a Cold War mentality. Well, this particular step that the Americans have taken is nothing but Cold War mentality. This is the kind of thing they used to do during the Cold War in the 20th century, aiding Pakistan, supporting Pakistan against India. And they have reopened that playbook. So it is the Americans who have a Cold War mentality, and they are opening the same old playbook. So that's where we are. Yeah, the relations are not good between India and the US. There will still be cooperation on a number of matters, especially when it concerns China. But the Americans want India to bend over backwards and do whatever they say in all aspects of India's foreign policy, which is not going to work. And India is now rising. India's GDP grew by 13 point something percent in the first quarter of 2022. That is something which sets off alarm bells in the West. The West doesn't want India to rise. The West wants India to remain a middle income. I mean, a middle sized economy, mid-sized economy, not a bigger economy. 5 trillion would be a terrible disaster for them. 10 trillion would be the end of the world for them. They don't want India to go the China way. China rose, and India has all the potential to rise. And that's why they will do everything they can to keep hindering India and keep putting roadblocks in India's way. So India will have to find ways to deal with this. So this is what we are witnessing. So India has most likely refused to become part of the trade pillar of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework in response to the various American actions that are clearly hostile to India.